Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to this episode. Today we're going to be focusing on painting a fashion illustration, abstract portraiture, a new method that I've kind of figured out along the way on my university journey, and I wanted to apply it in this video and kind of show you how this works and you kind of see it come to life towards the end.
So the first thing that we want to be doing is prepping the canvas. We need a canvas that is appropriate for acrylic painting or oil painting, whatever you want to use in creation of this piece. And we want to be able to mask down the actual canvas itself. The reason why we do this is so the canvas doesn't buckle when we put down some product. By masking down the sides of the actual canvas, we're ensuring that that is not going to be the case when we do start to apply some product. So we're going to now prime the canvas with some acrylic gesso. Now I'm just going straight in from the pot onto the canvas. This is how I would prefer to actually prime it. However, you can use underpaint for your canvas, but for me, I'm just happy to stick with the actual white from the gesso as my underpaint. Now we have to let that sit and dry before we actually paint over it. Whilst that is drying, we're going to start looking for some inspiration on what to create on the canvas. And as I said, we're going to create a fashion illustration abstract portraiture. I would create a fashion illustration concept board, so that way you're saving all of your inspiration into the one folder. And I would get a mix of different things because you don't want to be just going for the same look. You want to be inspired by multiple things that you can turn into your own. So when you've found the image that you want to create, it's best to download that and then just make it big onto the computer screen, so then you can start to create multiple composition sketches from that. The idea of multiple sketch compositions is to get a feel for how you want your subject to be sitting on the piece of paper. And another element to that is getting you outside of this perfectionism mode. As you can see at the start of the video, I was journaling, and that helps with getting rid of a lot of chatter in the head, negative self-talk. And the sketch compositions is kind of like the same thing, but we're also creating these sketch compositions that allows you to move and see different things each time you're doing a sketch. I could have done more than 3, but I decided for this demonstration, I'm just going to stick with 3. And as you can see in the first one, very, very rough sketch. The second one is a bit more close up. For me, myself personally, I tend to actually zoom things in. I'm not sure why exactly, but that's just the way that I do art. So this second sketch that I've completed right here is more zoomed in. Probably not something that I'm going to be using in my final canvas because we actually want to see the full face. And you know, if you're happy to stick with portrait, you can stick with portrait, or you can go landscape. That is the beauty of trying to create and find your own composition. When you do multiple sketch compositions, the first couple are always going to be very fast because you're just getting an idea or a feel for the actual subject. And then over time, it starts to get a bit slower. So in this third one, I'm taking a bit more time, yet still not fixating on it literally being exact. It's quite rough, and this is what I'm going to be using when I transfer it to the canvas. All I've sketched these on is just some brown tonal paper, and I've just got some white chalk. I thought that I might try something different because, you know, I usually do it on a piece of paper with graphite, which is totally fine. You can definitely do that. But for me, I just wanted to try something different and, you know, make it a bit more interesting, I guess. And then I've just gone in with graphite pencil just to add some contrast, add some depth, so I can kind of see if I'm liking the composition or not. So once we're happy with the composition, we want to transfer that then to the canvas. And how we're going to do that is by using acrylic paints. However, we're going to be washing them down so they're more transparent, and we do that by adding water. Here you can see me hanging up the sketch on the left hand side. So if you're right-handed, you want your sketch to be on the left hand side. If you're left-handed, you want the sketch to be on the right hand side, because you want to be able to see it and your arm not be in the way of where the actual sketch is. So you want the sketch to be in your opposite arm that you actually paint or draw with. So here you can see me just roughly sketching in the composition onto the canvas. It's quite transparent, as you can see. It's not very thick. You can see the brush strokes because I've added quite a bit of water. There is no rules to this art creation. I've just gone and picked the most randomest colors because this is more of an abstract. It's not like going to be proper, exact, whatever you want to call it. It's just we're having fun with it. So here you can see me starting to add a little bit of white to it. The main purpose for that is to add some sort of texture. So this actual white acrylic paint, titanium paint, is not opaque. It's very transparent. So I'm adding really thick layers to it to add texture. You'll see that this process is in relation to a lot of layers. So at the start, I was layering transparent burnt umber, then I went and added textured white, and then all of a sudden now I'm adding some purple just to give a bit more contrast, a bit more depth. We're just adding to the layers. We want to make sure that we're mixing these paints with a bit of water so we can actually see the layering of the products themselves or the paints themselves. So here you can see I've gone in with the white again, but I've mixed it somewhat with burnt umber. So it's giving, a little bit of tonal contrast, adding a bit more texture, kind of blending it out a little bit, but not really. So we're just kind of experimenting with how this is going. And as you can see that the paint is still quite thin, it's got a bit of water. Now I'm just going to take some black and really define some areas of the face. So we're mapping it out now. We're being able to go, okay, we've put down some base, but now we're going to actually bring some sort of contrast or some sort of life to the actual painting itself. Again, there's no rules when it comes to this. It's more just getting a feel of how you would like to create this. I would enjoy the process. It's so easy to get into the perfectionism mode, but we don't want to be doing that. So here you can see me adding some more white. It's thicker this time because we're adding texture. So you can see me do that here. Now I thought that near the face there was quite thick, so I've just gone and wet my brush and gone over the paint with no product, and I'm kind of blending it out there because it's just the actual proportion of the face was just too much. So I'm just getting some water here and just really washing it down. Now this is where we can start to add color for a bit of character. So as you can see, I'm doing red lips and just really playing with this. I've decided to actually add that quite thick so it adds more texture, and then also add it to the cheeks as well. From the actual reference photo itself, the carpet in the background was quite bold, so I want to kind of bring that element into it. Just adds a bit more interest, a bit more fun. It's just, I don't know, it feels nice. So we're just adding that in quite thick. If I went over any other colors, I would wipe that off before putting the brush down again. We don't want to be dragging any other color around in the bold color area. So here now we're adding more contrast. Now I've just gone back in with the burnt umber, and I'm just adding some shadows to the face, trying to sculpt out the face really from this point. Because as you can see, with all the white in the highlighted areas of the face, it does make the painting quite flat. So we want to just go in and add a bit more depth to it. So adding a bit of the burnt umber, and then giving the eyes a bit more of a lifelike kind of sense to it by adding the creases, a bit of shadow in where the bridge of the noses are, adding some white where the water lines are in the eyes, adding a bit of brush strokes for hairs to represent the eyebrows. And then here, just kind of making it a bit more lifelike. See, this is the whole process, is we want to be just layering. We're enjoying the process. We're trying to see what we like and critically analyze what we want to do next. So as you can see, there's always a back and forth with shadows, highlights. And the thing about acrylic painting is, yes, it dries fast, but if you add a lot of water to it, it makes it very transparent and it gives you a bit more leg room, moving the product around and really enjoying the experience. So this is what I'm trying to focus on here, is not really focus too much on how the actual product is being used, just enjoying the layering process and just seeing how it comes together. So the last bit that I've done here is just added another pop of color for the earrings, and that is our finished fashion illustration abstract portraiture. So there we have it. I hope you learned something new, and if you did, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear it. Love to hear your thoughts on the actual piece itself. Acrylic painting is not something that I normally tend to work with. It is something that I just generally like to experiment with time and time again. I find that the more transparent it is, the more interesting it is. You're kind of creating this 3D effect where you're allowing the viewer's eye to kind of guess what's actually happening in the painting. All of the products that I use in this video will be in the description below, and there are some links there if you wanted to go check them out. And if you're keen to see more videos like this, please also let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Thank you again for tuning in to episode 6 of the House of Alex. I'll see you all in the next episode. Take care. Ciao.